And you may be seated. Shabbat shalom, everybody. How are you guys doing? Are you cold? Are you okay?
We're okay.
You're okay? Got some layers on, a blanket. Chaim just grabbed us another blanket and a shawl in that basket. If anyone would like a blanket, a little added warmth.
Do you want to share, or are you okay?
Feel free to get a blanket if you'd like one there. There's only two more. And then, if you need to be in the sunshine or something like that, that's okay too. I love this, the weather, and it's just really special. We're trying to maximize the outdoors as much as we can before we move indoors. And it's kind of exciting. We're working on a plan for indoors. There's a questionnaire that we've sent out to those of you who are local that we want some feedback on, see if you can get to that there too. And this is just cool. This week, I just found out we actually have a full ventilator system from outside air to indoor air in the sanctuary that I didn't know about for the past decade. And so we're making sure that it works, and we're going to find out how many times it cycles through every hour, and we're going to get all those details and get that thing going and put in new filters and all that. So anyway, we're working toward this in November, and we'll give you the details as we go along. But I just appreciate you coming with jackets and some layers, and, it's wonderful. So, another update, let me just say, we're also looking at a tent, like actually getting our own tent for the GAWC that's going to be awesome next year. So we could be, we could use the whole summer in a tent. It'll be really cool. So stay tuned, lots of exciting things. Let's see. So to begin today, 15 years ago, I'd mentioned that, when Rain and I first walked in the door at Ruach Israel, we felt welcomed. We felt welcomed. We were quickly brought into community, and we were made to feel at home. And that was before rabbinical school. That was before we were brand new followers of Yeshua. And, here we are today. As I reflect on the years back, the most meaningful times of community for Raina and I were around a shared table. The most meaningful times of community were around a shared table. It was our oneg table in the fellowship hall after services. And even more than events in the building, it was Shabbat dinners in our homes, in your homes, and other places. A third meal on Shabbat afternoon, Havdalah in the living room with members of our Ruach Israel community. I remember countless, I can't even think, there's so many times of Shabbat meals that Rain and I would, the next day, our cheeks would be sore from laughing, And it's just wonderful. The piles of dirty dishes, the extra chairs, the mess on the floor, it only adds to the sense of fulfillment and joy, And I don't know, I don't think we'd be the same if that didn't happen. I don't think we'd be the same today. Each one of those events just kind of has a cumulative effect on our soul and changes us and brings us nearer to God and to each other. So if you haven't guessed, today I'd like to talk about hospitality. Hospitality. Let's open our Bibles, if you will, to Bereshit 18, Genesis 18, verse 1. Do we have them out here? I'll be reading it too, but if you have it there, let's open up there. And there's one up here too, if someone would like to grab one. And this year, our theme is community strength. So we've been saying this all summer. We, through the high holy days, regroup, recommit, rebuild to come back even stronger. And I know that we have been set back a bit by the Delta wave, if you will, but our vision is still here, and we must continue to keep growing in the new year, 5782. Hospitality is one of the important qualities that we need to build a stronger community. Hospitality. Community becomes stronger when we spend time with one another. It's very simple. Community becomes stronger when we spend time with one another. When we take the time to invite and to care for a Ruach member, invite someone into our home, when we take the time to go and visit with another member of our community. In a strong community, everyone is inviting people over and doing all kinds of things in addition to our larger services and gatherings all the time. That's what healthy community is. It's great. We come together, and that's like the first step. And then from there, we say, hey, you want to do Shabbat dinner? And then at Shabbat dinner, you say, hey, I'll see you at services. And it's this beautiful, beautiful coming together of community. And so this year, we need to work on a culture of hospitality in our community. A community culture where we're intentional about spending time with one another. our Parsha begins Vayera, and the Lord appeared. Now, today during our reading, we read the second Aliyah, which is like scene 2 of this whole picture. It kind of jumps right in the middle. And so let's go back to the beginning of the Parsha. We didn't read it today, but the beginning where there are these 3 mysterious visitors who show up at Abraham's tent. The Jewish value of hospitality is defined by how Abraham welcomes these 3 mysterious visitors. And in fact, our tradition considers Abraham the father of hospitality. So let's walk through this passage, and then I want to draw 4 specific lessons that can help us to cultivate a community or cultivate a culture of hospitality in our community. So we're at verse 1. The Lord appeared to Abraham by the trees of Mamre. This, you might think of this more like an oasis area, in the desert, like an intersecting point where people might come. The text continues, he was sitting at the entrance of the tent as the day grew hot. So as the day grew hot, that means around noontime, the heat of the day. The emphasis of the text is you don't want to get up and walk around and do stuff. You want to just sit. That's it. Let's pause. Let's read the next verse too. Looking up, he saw 3 men. You kind of visualize this coming at looking up, he saw 3 men. And as soon as he saw them, he ran from the entrance of the tent to greet them. We'll pause there. Now remember, Abraham is 99 years old, so he's not a spring chicken. Spring chicken, it has a whole new meaning for us because we just got chickens. We have 7 chickens. And they got them at like little this size, and now they're big. So anyway, he wasn't a spring chicken. Not only was it hot, not only was Abraham old, but in the previous chapter, he was circumcised. So the rabbis of the Talmud muse that these visitors show up just 3 days after his circumcision. They wonder if God was coming to visit him during his suffering. Actually, this Midrash informs one of Judaism's highest values, Bikur Holim, the visiting of the sick during hard times. If God visited Abraham during his time of recovery from his surgery, so we should visit each other. You see? Now, keep in mind that Abraham circumcised himself, and we didn't have Dan Nickel here as his anesthesiologist. You know what I mean? So that's what he does. Well, I don't know for those surgeries, but maybe. I don't know. You can ask him. Now, when we talk about Midrash, we need to make a distinction between the Torah and Midrash. Midrash is the ancient rabbis' way of wrestling with the text and drawing out lessons by filling in the missing pieces. So they wonder, the Torah says that Abraham sat at the entrance to his tent. Why did he sit at the entrance? I mean, if he's recovering, shouldn't he be in bed somewhere else? Why is he there? And the answer is that Abraham is sitting there because he was looking for strangers to welcome. He was at his tent because he was looking for strangers to welcome into his home. According to the Midrash, Abraham would regularly open his home to strangers. He would invite them in and share a meal, and then he would convert them to the one true God. That's the Midrash. Now, in fact, one tradition says that Abraham and Sarah actually positioned their tent in the oasis and kept open all 4 doors of the tent so they could welcome guests from all directions. That's the idea. What they're doing is they're just playing on this whole idea of like how Abraham is a man of hospitality. So our first lesson to hospitality is like Abraham, we need to make hospitality a lifestyle. Hospitality needs to be a part of our DNA, a part of who we are. Abraham was not only looking for opportunities, but he built his tent in such a way to insist on it. He was eager even when recovering from the pain of the operation on a hot day. Similarly, we can be aware and always looking for opportunities to invite Ruach people into our homes. Looking for opportunities. One of the best ways to do this in our community is around Friday night Shabbat meal. It's Shabbat, so we already wouldn't be going out to spend money. We wouldn't be like scheduling a work meeting or something like that, because it's a time that God has given us to set aside to be with family, to be with community in our homes. So let's do it. Let's get together and prioritize this. Shabbat afternoons can work for a third meal. Havdalah is great. Right now, we actually have a small subcommittee working on a plan to coordinate Shabbat dinners at each other's homes this year. We don't know what it's going to look like yet. We're just sort of in the talking phase. So if you have ideas, let us know. But the idea is there. And perhaps we'll find some way that you can share when you have a few open seats at a Shabbat dinner table. And then someone can say, hey, I might like to come over there and go over there. So keep in mind. But really, a plan like this will only work. It's only helpful if hospitality is already a part of our community culture, if it's already our lifestyle. And so we can start this now without that structure. And one idea that we have is we should just start this now, is to begin to make a weekly announcement where, when we give the remindings about our tithes and offerings and things, something like this. Think about where you're going to spend Erev Shabbat this coming Friday evening. Who are you going to invite over to your home? Who do you plan to visit? Now, we'll offer some help for you here about how to host a Shabbat dinner if you haven't done that before. I have a video that I made for the Maturing in Messiah class that we can send out, in the coming weeks. But here's the thing. It doesn't all need to be done correctly. You don't need to do it all in Hebrew. You could do it in English. You could just share a meal together. Just do it. It doesn't have to be perfect. What's important is that hospitality is on your schedule. Maybe keep an invite list or a directory where you can see it and be intentional about your plans. In addition to inviting people over in your inner circles, because community is all built within circles, try to step out a little bit and invite someone that you maybe haven't ever gotten together with, someone that maybe a different kind of person than you might normally hang out with. If we look close at the text, Avraham began his hospitality even before his guests reached his tent. He ran to meet them. So we need to be excited about the mitzvah of hospitality in our community. You want to value each other so much that you don't just wait for them to come to you. Sit back and wait for an invite, for example. For us, this might mean taking the initiative to make it happen. Don't just wait. Hey, let's get together for Shabbat. Your house, my house, whatever, let's figure it out. You see, you can do that here with each other. Avraham ran to his guests in spite of his surgical pain. So let's do whatever we can to make getting together possible. And listen, I know COVID is still going on. I understand. We'll need to be careful. This year, we're kind of wounded like Avraham, aren't we? We're still hurting. We're still hurting for COVID. Some of you haven't had guests in almost 2 years, maybe. And it's real, and we need to be careful. But we can still find ways to do this. Keep gathering small. Invest in an indoor air purifier. Open the windows. Take a home COVID test, before you get together if it'll make you feel more comfortable. They're very inexpensive. They take 2 minutes to do, and 15 minutes you sit there and you wait. You know what I mean? They're pretty accurate. I do one every week just to be sure. It's really easy. Adds a little bit of extra. Just do that with each other. It's worth it. It's not a big deal. Community is worth it. Community isn't just fun. It's not just a party. Community is essential for our spiritual and emotional well-being. It meets this deep human need inside of us. And if you can't get together in person, or if you're part of our virtual community, we love the people, you guys who are Zoom in from far and wide. Be intentional. Do a Zoom meeting. Do a Zoom Shabbat dinner or something like that. Schedule a FaceTime call. Do whatever you can to run and build your Ruach community around you. Okay? Let's continue with verse 3. And bowing to the ground, he said, "My Lord, if it pleases you, do not go past your servant." So Avraham's language here is very strong. My Lord, Adonai, is a term usually used for God. It can also be used towards people. Of course, the two men here turn out to be angels. We know that later on. The third is a mystery, perhaps the Lord himself. We'll talk about that. But at this time, Avraham doesn't know who they are, yet he adds this great deal of respect to his language. He bows and refers to himself as their servant. So our second lesson on hospitality is to see yourself as a servant toward your fellow community members. To see yourself as a servant. Avraham doesn't just say it, he does it. Verse 4 continues, "Let a little water be brought. Bathe your feet. Recline under the tree. And let me fetch a morsel of bread so that you may refresh yourselves. Then you can go on, seeing that you've come your servant's way." They replied, "Do as you have said." Now, I remember when I hiked the AT, the Appalachian Trail from Maine to Georgia, how lovely it was after walking 20 miles or so on the mountains to be able to like bathe my feet in a cool stream and wash them, you know. And so that makes sense that he would want to do this, to wash their feet. I don't know, it might be strange, you know, if Josh, you come over for Shabbat dinner and I run out and I wash your feet, you know, the moment you come in my house. So we might understand this more as like meeting whatever needs you can for your guests. Notice that the visitors do not ask Avraham for this. They don't say, hey, would you wash my feet? But he sees their need before they even ask, and he runs to meet it. So some guests, you'll find, don't like to ask for anything and don't like to receive much. And then other guests are very needy and ask for a lot of things, you know? And that's okay too. Both are opportunities to serve. Being a servant for your community means stepping outside of your world to practice, I like to call it sensitivity. Actively looking for the needs of your guests. Those needs are opportunities for you. It's the mitzvah of hospitality. It's a mitzvah. Our third lesson to hospitality is to add honor. Add honor. Verse 6 continues, Avraham hastened to the tent to Sarah and said, quick, 3 measures of choice flour, knead and make cakes. Then Avraham ran to the herd, took a calf, tender and choice, and gave it to the servant boy who hastened to prepare it. He took curds and milk and the calf that had been prepared and set them before him. So when we teach honor to our kids, we use a simple definition that I love, and it works. It's so true. Treat other people as special, do more than what's expected, and have a good attitude. Treat other people as special, do more than what's expected, and have a good attitude. It's so simple, and this is exactly what hospitality looks like for Avraham. He treats them as special by pleading with them to stay and helps them to rest. He runs and makes haste so they don't wait too long. He goes above what was expected. To his guests, he says, listen, let me just get a little bit of bread. So maybe a few old pieces of stale bread and some water might have been enough. That might have been what was expected. But instead, he runs to Sarah, take our finest flour. You know, make some fresh bread. And then he runs, and without hesitation, he chooses the best calf. You know, it's not just one of them. It's not the worst one because he's saving that one. It's the best one. That's honor. A little bit more than what's expected. And then he adds in the curds and whey to do just a bit more. Another time we'll talk about the whole curds and whey thing. His attitude is excitement and joy. He pays no attention to his old age. He pays no attention to the heat of the day. He pays no attention to the pain of his circumcision. That's a good attitude, you see? He's focused on his task, on honor. So for us at Ruach Israel, honor is treating each other at Ruach Israel here as special. It's going above what is expected and doing it with a giving and a joy-filled attitude. Now, let me qualify. This does not mean you need to spend all day preparing for Shabbat dinner. Please. It's far better to keep it simple and relaxed and host a lot, you see, than it is to not host because it's too much work. So, and I know that most people in our community would rather be invited even if you can't get to cleaning the house first. Wouldn't that be the case? Wouldn't you rather go over to someone's house even if they don't get to vacuuming or whatever? What if they say, hey, I want to have you over, but I can't prepare a meal. Wouldn't you still rather come? You know? So honor comes when you prioritize the joy of being with one another. And if you come over our house for Shabbat, we might still be running around vacuuming. Each of us have little jobs and we all do these things, and sometimes our guests come before they're done, and that's just what it is. It's part of community life together and has like a specialness in its own right. That's a qualifier. If you come over, we might still be vacuuming. Especially if you come early. Okay. So our first lesson is to make hospitality a lifestyle. Our second is to serve. Our third is to add honor. And the last lesson on hospitality from Avraham is time. Our verse here closes, and he waited on them until under the tree as they ate. He waited on them. He stood with them. He sat with them as they ate. He spent time with them. And I want to highlight that in my experience, there's nothing more stressful than being worried about what you'll talk about or whether you'll be good company. You know, some people don't host because they don't think they'll be good company, or they don't know what to say, or it'll be awkward or something like that. But especially if you're an introvert, you might not have a lot to say, and that's okay. It's just spending time with each other. It doesn't have to be a great conversation. I wonder if these men said anything to Avraham at all during that time. Maybe not. It might have just been the first thing they said after that was, you're going to have a baby in your old age. That would be, don't say that, your guess, but I mean, you could, but okay. What's the point is that it doesn't have to be like, this epic experience to be good community. You just have to be with one another. That's all. Be kind, of course. Prioritize your relationship above the many divisive issues in our world today. Do I have to even say it? Just relationship above all these other issues. Listen to each other. Ask questions. It doesn't have to be anything special. We need to find how to have joy and meaning in small interactions just by sitting around a table, because that has value in and of itself. And that's one of the reasons, by the way, when, as soon as we feel like it's appropriate in regards to COVID, we need to get back to our regular community oneg, where we share a meal together. Right now we're doing bring your own, and that's great. We're still eating together, but there's something about sharing a meal together. But, that can only happen if you guys, all of us, are willing to jump in and step in and share and help and volunteer and make it happen. It's not just like one or two people on a hospitality committee. We're a community. We're all on hospitality. It's all part of our role here. That's community. In Exodus, there's this amazing passage. We see the 70 elders. They go up Mount Sinai, and they see God. I mean, it's this amazing thing. They see God. It's beautiful. It's amazing. And what does he do? He makes a banquet, and they eat. If you see God in heaven and sapphire and everything, and it's amazing, do you think, it's the first thing you think about, you're going to have a big banquet in front of you in a mountain, you're going to eat? Like, it's really strange. He brings us up there and eat. In Judaism, the table is an altar. The table is an altar where laughter and tears and praises and songs and guests, they're all present in family. That's the table. And in the tradition, Abraham uses his hospitality to draw people closer to God. And so in Judaism, we invite Shabbat guests to talk about God, to study the Torah, to enter into the Lord's presence together. And Yeshua ate with, how many times it talks about Yeshua eating with people in the Besorot? He eats with the sinners and the tax collectors, and he's rebuked for it. He eats with the Pharisees, and he's judged for it. But this is how he entered into people's lives. He went over their house, and he had a meal. And you consider our Besorah reading that we read today. His first miracle is at a wedding banquet where he turns water into wine in order to keep the meal going, and the celebrations going. There's something special here. And by eating with one another, we enter into each other's lives. So hospitality is a lifestyle. It gives us the opportunity to serve one another, to honor one another, and then to invest the time. Now, let me close with this. Hebrews 13:2, we see this interesting passage. Do not forget to show hospitality, for by doing so, some people, maybe referring to Abraham, some people have shown hospitality to angels without even knowing it. Over the course of this passage, we find out that these three men are not really ordinary men at all. And it creates quite a conundrum in Jewish tradition, actually. A little bit later, Jewish tradition holds that these three of them were all angels in this tradition. God appears to Abraham before the three visitors. Then Abraham sees the visitors, and when he says, "My Lord, if it pleases you, do not go past your servant," the idea is that he's actually speaking to God. Please don't leave me so that I can extend hospitality to these men. And in this tradition, it's an interesting tradition, Abraham sees hospitality is even more important than spending time with God. He's like, leaves God to go out and meet these people. It's an interesting lesson. I think there are other Jewish interpretations that I think are better, although I like the lesson. In its simplest reading, Hashem seems so clearly to be one of the visitors along with the two angels. Though the idea of Hashem appearing as a man is offensive, in later rabbinic tradition, it wasn't always that way in Judaism. And while Abraham is walking with the three visitors, the Torah says that Hashem is the one speaking about his plans for Sodom and Gomorrah. That's what we read about today. And clearly he's talking with the visitors. And then only 2 of the angels go on to Sodom and Gomorrah, while Avraham stays behind to debate with the third one, who's Hashem. If there are 50 righteous, would you still destroy the city? And a Messianic Jewish reading of this text suggests that Avraham is actually speaking with the divine human representative of Hashem, the Malach Hashem, elsewhere in the Torah, the angel of the Lord, the messenger of the Lord. This is, in our reading, the Son, the pre-incarnate Yeshua. In other words, Avraham not only hosted angels without knowing it, perhaps he even hosted Yeshua without knowing it, the physical presence of Hashem. In Genesis Rabbah, God promises Avraham, as you brought a little water to my emissaries, I will give your descendants water in the desert. As you brought them bread to eat, I will sustain your descendants with manna for 40 years. As you gave them shade under the tree, I will give the Israelites a cover of clouds to protect them in the desert from the sun. So, according to this Midrash, this one act changed the whole course of human history. But according to the tradition, the only reason why Avraham was privileged to merit such a visit in the first place was because hospitality was so important to him. It was his culture. It was his lifestyle. He was a servant, and he showed tremendous honor to his guests that he spent time with them. And Yeshua says this in Matthew 10, anyone who welcomes you welcomes me. Anyone who welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me. Whoever welcomes a prophet as a prophet will receive a prophet's reward. And whoever welcomes a righteous person as a righteous person will receive a righteous person's reward. And if anyone gives even a cold cup of water to one of these little ones, who is my disciple, truly I tell you that person will certainly not lose their reward. Hospitality is welcoming a person into your home. And you see how important this is. You might be welcoming a righteous person and merit his reward, or a prophet and merit his reward. But even if you give a cup of cold water to one who is Yeshua's disciple, you still have his promise. And even more so, even us, all of us were made in the image of Hashem, either way. So we as a community do this together. Community life is not lived by individuals alone. It's lived by communities. Some of us have the ability to host. Some may not. Others, you can have the mitzvah of hospitality just by visiting someone else, even if you can't have anyone over. Some of us have families to welcome others into. Others are single to welcome families into your life. So we work together as a community. If you're older, invite someone over who's younger. If you're younger, host someone who's older. And it's fine to do a boomers event or things like that, young person's gathering. But at the heart, community is not meant to be broken into slices based on arbitrary demographics. It's meant to be intergenerational and diverse so that we grow and learn together. So I want to invite you to think outside the box as we get together. This year, in the modeling of Avraham, let us become a community of hospitality. Who are you going to invite over for Shabbat dinner? The directory is online. Email Shana or I. We can get it to you. Who are you going to spend Shabbat afternoon with? Who are you going to be with for Havdalah? Let me know if you have any ideas for how to create this space for an open Shabbat, even better. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.